So 1979's The China Syndrome stars Jane Fonda, Jack Lemmon, Michael Douglas, and it sees a couple of reporters become embroiled in a cover-up at a local nuclear power plant after they witness an incident that could have had dire consequences, and one that highlights a serious fault with safety measures. Meanwhile, Jack Lemmon's plant supervisor becomes suspicious when the investigation is covered up. Now this is a brilliant slice of late 70s paranoia that fuses environmental warning and investigation drama with government and big business cover-ups and ultimately an against-the-clock hostage negotiation thriller. One that has a spooky echo of real-life disasters. Let's take a look.
Generator trip, full load rejection, turbine trip.
Ted, stabilize the reactor.
Right.
Radiation containment.
So, we have TV reporter Kimberly Wells here, played by Jane Fonda, and her cameraman Richard Adams, played by Michael Douglas. The pair are at a nuclear power station to do a piece on nuclear energy when something goes wrong and Adams is able to secretly record footage of an emergency shutdown procedure. Now, it's not long before their boss is refusing to air their story and agrees with the plant bigwigs to stash the story and the footage away in the vault.
I told him we've got the film and that the film stays in the vault.
So it's a conspiracy then?
It is not a conspiracy, it is not a cover-up. Look, the plant had no obligation to contact the press.
And they wouldn't have if we had not been there.
However, Michael Douglas gets the footage back, and it's not long before he and Fonda find an initially reluctant Jack Lemmon, the supervisor in the control room that day, as they attempt to break the story.
I just cannot believe a man would deliberately falsify the records of a nuclear reactor. My God.
That means the plant's not safe.
So real-life catastrophic incidents such as Chernobyl's ruptured reactor core in 1986, one that was well documented in a recent mini-series, earthquake-triggered tsunami that flooded reactors at the Fukashima power plant in Japan, show that events such as the ones depicted in this movie are far away from being merely fictional elements in Hollywood films. In fact, just over a week after The China Syndrome was released in theatres, a dodgy valve issue led to huge amounts of nuclear reactor coolant leaking at the 3 Mile Island power plant in Pennsylvania. So in nuclear power industry speak, a China Syndrome is a meltdown so severe that a reactor would drastically overheat, burn its way through the concrete floor of its containment tower and just keep going, dramatically speaking, all the way to China. Now, I do enjoy a film with a good conspiracy aspect to it. You know, watching a big business or a government try and cover up the truth or whatever has happened. Now, something like The China Syndrome can be in danger of being a little bit too preachy or too dense with technical exposition. But I think director James Bridges here constructs a film that balances moments of exposition and moments of drama and builds towards a final act that's very movie-ish, if that makes sense, but feels earned and logical for the story. So released in 1979, this was one of Jane Fonda's last high-profile roles, for me anyway. A few years later, she'd begin a domination of the home workout industry, of course. I think this is one of my favourite performances from her.
What did he say to you, Mr. Spindler?
Said he thought this plant ought to be shut down.
And you agree with that? Should it be shut down?
It's not my place to say.
If it's not your place, Mr. Spindler, whose is it?
And it would be her movie if not for the great Jack Lemmon, who I'll get to in a moment. But here we also have Michael Douglas at the beginning of his movie career, here basically playing a sidekick role, but still displaying his great charisma.
I photographed an accident. An accident in a nuclear power plant.
I don't know that accident is the right word.
Accident is the right word. I see to make you.
Sorry, I'm late.
The station's got a yellow streak about that wide down its back.
But it's most certainly Jack Lemmon's film. He's awesome here as the plant supervisor turned whistleblower turned frustrated madman. And he was also Oscar nominated, but Kramer versus Kramer was cleaning up that year.
We're burning me see that. God damn it.
Ted, we may uncover the core. This is Jack Goodell. We have a serious condition. You get everybody into safety areas and make sure that they stay there.
But his nuclear engineer, Jack Goodell, is excellent. A man who knows he's part of a cover-up and has to double and triple check the facts to prove he's right. And only then can he face the dilemma of what to do with this knowledge. Lemmon was great at playing these almost tragic and ultimately desperate figures. He cuts a lonely man here. I can't remember if it's mentioned in the film at all, but he appears to live on his own, and even at work there's no one who seems to be on his side. But what I love about the China Syndrome is similar to what makes this one of my favourite subgenres. You've got a genuine cautionary tale, rooted in fact, but of course no 70s paranoid thrillers complete without elements such as the evil henchman, shady characters tailing you, car chases, mysterious missing evidence, etc. Now, the film is criticised by many for being too self-important. I think despite the presence of Fonda and Lemmon, who both had quite clear views on the dangers of nuclear power, the film isn't preachy, or if it is, it's well camouflaged behind its thriller elements. Now, I did recently read on IMDb that the studio didn't like the title of the film and wanted something a bit more straightforward. I can't recall what they had in mind, but none of the titles were as interesting or thought-provoking than The China Syndrome. Now, I'm quite sure that technology and safety protocols, etc., are constantly being monitored and improved upon, certainly in the last 40-odd years since this film's release, but I can imagine at the time that the powers that be wouldn't have looked kindly upon a film that shakes public confidence in what's already a pretty controversial subject. Incidentally, this would make an interesting double bill with the shamefully underseen Meryl Streep movie Silkwood, which actually came out a few years after this. Now, The China Syndrome was directed by James Bridges, who's a bit of an obscure filmmaker. I think he only made 7 or 8 movies. The only other one I've seen, I think, is the John Travolta oddity Urban Cowboy. This thriller is without doubt the pinnacle of his admittedly short career. Now, The China Syndrome is a film that's visually dated, of course, the fashions, the technology, etc., but its themes and warnings still remain pretty relevant, I think, maybe more so today, with its spotlight on both the shadiness of big business and how the media choose what and what not to show the public. It can be a pretty unsettling film that provides even more food for thought in light of 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl and Fukashima disasters. Go check it out.